Okay, thank you, Jeroen. Welcome everybody to this webinar. We've got 30 minutes, so it's going to be a deep dive, but it's going to be a speedy deep dive because we only got 30 minutes. And I would really like to talk to you about what sort of the lessons learned from us at Quint with doing DevOps transformation programs at our customers. And it can be industry customers, governance, education, healthcare. We sort of try to combine all these lessons learned from you and focus on that. So things we hopefully address within the next 30 minutes is what we think is the best way to approach DevOps and how if we do DevOps, what kind of interventions do we make, and we split those interventions across 5 key forces, we call them, and it's always very much about how to design and structure and integrate all these DevOps teams that start appearing when you go into this. And like I said, the lessons learned, that's what we like to focus upon in the next 30 minutes. So thank you for joining. I hope it will be worth it. And if you've got any questions, please use the functionality that you just described to us. Well, to start off, well, basically 2 questions that people ask me a lot when we start talking about DevOps with IT leadership teams within IT organizations. And normally people are doing lots of stuff. They might be doing already a bit of DevOps. They have Agile teams doing extreme programming or Scrum, or they've got the SAFe framework for scaling Agile, or they might be doing Lean IT or Lean leadership things. And then normally you get into this discussion. I mean, how does DevOps fit into this all? And then do we need to quit something? Do we need to stop an initiative? And my common reaction would be, no, just keep doing it. It's basically all these things that you're doing, they should stimulate each other. They should be working together towards this common goal that you want to achieve. I mean, there is no cookbook, no predefined way of doing stuff. And normally, whatever you're doing, whether it's Lean or Agile or DevOps, when people ask, what should we do, then I would say 3 things. I mean, if you do not have much time to explain stuff, I would say just 3 things. And that would be 1, to create nimble, agile, autonomous teams that are accountable for the health of an IT service. That's 1 thing. Small teams that are autonomous and that can do all the work that is necessary for an IT service, and not only for the development but for the entire life cycle. That's 1. Second, if people ask what else, I would say DevOps requires, and it's the same for Lean IT and Agile, that your leadership is capable of leading an organization that is way of working based on those principles. It will require probably a big step for your IT leadership team to make, and that's what you should be working on. And the last thing is that you need to create a culture of continuous improvement. And when you got these 3 things done right, then there is no discussion of what you need to do, but you can start doing stuff. So that's basically the 3 most important things. And in this webinar we'll touch upon those from different angles quite a lot. So DevOps in our opinion has a profound impact on not only technology, it's not only about automation, but it's about people, it's about process, and it's about technology. Especially people, like I said, we've got multidisciplinary teams in mind with great cooperation on the inside, with little coordination necessary between teams. We've got process optimization, and we've got this leading of processes. We've got value streams. We've got basically a definition of DevOps I sometimes like to use is that DevOps is the search for ultimate flow within IT. The ultimate flow of IT value to your customers. And we've got within a value chain of IT and information, at the beginning we've got Agile and we've got the DevOps principles underneath, and we are capable of getting new value, existing value to our customers in a really quick and reliable way. And we enhance the flow, maximize the flow by adding all sorts of technology and automation that you can read lots and lots about on the internet, on very cool tooling that we need to do. So, profound impact on people, process, and technology. Now, if you look at people and you would say, am I ready for DevOps? Then one of the questions you could ask yourself is, are my people, are my IT professionals, are my IT engineers ready for DevOps? And my common answer, again, would be yes, trust them. You've got good people, and maybe you're not taking, let's say, full advantage as an organization of all the potential within the people, but I never met an organization where they were working IT professionals, they were not capable of doing this stuff. Everybody is capable of doing it. It's just a matter of having the right skills and knowledge, the right competences, and you can develop them. And what we've done at Quint with some other parties is we came up with our own DevOps competence framework, Agile DevOps competence framework, because we were, well, if we look at the market and the DevOps community, then there is lots of great things, but we were missing this competence framework. And the question we get from our customers is, well, you got this big, large enterprise with IT and IT suppliers, external staff coming in, and how do we need to develop from a strategic point of view this group of professionals when we're moving towards this Agile DevOps way of working? So we came up with a competence framework, and we started a platform called the DevOps Agile Skills Association to help set sort of a market standard to develop this. And it's an open framework, it's an open platform, so everybody can join in. But one of the things that we're seeing is that the multidisciplinary nature of the teams in the future within an IT organization, it will require multi-skilled IT professionals. And that's one thing that you're probably working on this very moment, but I think that will increase the importance of that in the near future even more. So you've got people, and of course also your IT leadership team, the leadership qualities to guide and steer such an organization is a very important step. Then for the process, if you're coming from a more traditional organization, you might still have the waterfall projects or lots of service management processes like change management, release management, your incidents and your problems and your configuration management. And all these processes will still be as important as ever in this Agile DevOps environment you're creating. You still got change management, you still got incidents, problems will appear and need to be solved, need to be investigated, and all these processes, they will change a lot, but the essence of the process will still be there. So if you're responsible for problem management or configuration management for that matter, I think you're in for a very exciting time when your organization is moving towards a Agile DevOps way of doing stuff. And yes, your process will change, your daily activities might change a bit. If you're a change manager and you're used to doing these change authority board meetings, that probably will change, and that might be a good thing, but the essence of the process, that will still remain. And I think that, and that's my experience also, that if you've got multiple DevOps teams, then you've got people you might used to do development, and now they're part of a team that has the end-to-end responsibility for an IT service. So they will need to know about these processes. They will come to you and ask for your support. So if that is your role right now, yes, it will change, but I think in a good way and an exciting way. And of course, last but not least, it's the technology, it's the automation, and there's always a discussion, where should we start with automating stuff? And normally for me it would be to bring as much as possible of your IT infrastructure in version control. Start doing on the development side daily checkings in trunk. Make sure there are no difficulties when you integrate stuff. So your continuous integration is a big deal. And after that, the build automation and the test automation will follow. And of course, if you set up these autonomous teams, then you need a way to make sure that they can service themselves for the generic IT bits. So yesterday I was talking at a Dutch governmental organization with this DevOps team, a new team. Lots of people in the organization had still difficulty to pinpoint what the team was actually all about, but they were doing it anyway. They sort of created their own mandate to make that team, and they were building this new platform for the organization, and they've got the first services up and running in production. And one of the key things they tried to do was to make sure that they can operate independently, autonomous, on the generic IT infrastructure, network layers, stuff like that. And they do that through a lot of self-service and a lot of automation. And they work with a what we might be calling a platform team to make sure that the platform services, might be the IaaS or the PaaS services, can be used by the team itself. They've got the automation to use that. Again, to make sure that they stay autonomous. That prevents waiting times. To do it automated, that prevents possible manual errors to be made. And it speeds up their services and their flow of value immensely. So you've got people, process, and technology. But when we step into an organization, and you would ask me, what kind of interventions are you going to do? Then I would say, well, we're going to do intervention on 4 layers. It's on the organizational layer. You heard me talking a lot about teams, product teams, platform teams. So probably when you start doing this, the organization will change. Do you need an organization that has already been changed from a formal point of view to do Agile and DevOps? No, you don't. You can make teams, it can be virtual teams, it doesn't matter, but the organization will change. And of course we focus a lot on performance. I mean, doing Agile and DevOps is a means to an end, and we need to know what the end is, and we need to know what predicts great success and on what to stare upon. And if you look at performance, then you can go to the State of DevOps report. Probably you know that State of DevOps from supported by Puppet, and they've got these brilliant metrics that correlate really well with the things you're probably trying to achieve. So organization and performance. And then you've got behavior and attitude, and that's where the leadership kicks in. And you say, oh, you might be going from one end of the spectrum to a low motivation, and to come up to this high-performing teams that are really good at what they're doing, and they try to improve on a daily basis, and they've got self-steering, and they are autonomous. And how do you make sure that your leadership team gets there? So normally when we kick off these programs, it will probably always involve a leadership stream from the very, very, very beginning. Even more, if we don't get the leadership on board, then we know probably that it's not worth doing this project because we will fail. So that's behavior and attitude. Then we've got flow, make sure that the processes are really good. And of course, we automate as much as possible. And what we do, and that's the level 1 to 5 that you're seeing at the top, is we've a list of questionnaires behind these 5 elements, sort of to make sure that teams and organizations are capable themselves of pinpointing where they are on the scale of level 1 to 5. Level 1 would be we've got no dev and ops integration at all. We're at a very immature level, if you will. And at level 5, oh, that's the Valhalla. Then we've got everything done right. And of course, the key thing in this is that based on the self-assessments that teams and organizations are doing, all these elements to improve upon will pop up, and that will be a great input for teams to put on their backlog and to see whether or not it's worth spending time on to improve. So basically, with this in mind, and you say, well, are you ready for DevOps? Well, we think there are certain steps to take, and that's what you see in front of you. We've got 4 steps in total, and you don't have to do these steps all at once. So, for example, the first step, service-oriented IT, you can do a bit. You don't have to do that for all of the organization. It's the same with step 2, with structuring, building teams, setting up the governance. You can do that with 1, 2, maybe 3 teams and leave the rest of your organization alone. But when you've got those 3 teams, then you do the integration and then you move to the high-performing bit. And when you're successful and you think, well, this is the way forward, then you scale it up and make sure that you grow the number of DevOps teams and maybe change things in your governance or even work on your architecture to make sure that your IT infrastructure is capable of supporting these teams. So if you go into these first steps, and then what do we mean by mentioning service-oriented IT? Again, I'm talking about autonomous teams, and autonomous teams are responsible for the health of an IT service. But the big question is, what is that IT service? What is in scope of a single team working according to DevOps principles? Well, to answer that question, you of course need insight into the customer. Might be somebody who's using the service or somebody who's responsible for part of the business, but you need a customer, and that customer gets an IT service, and that IT service is supported by technology. So there is, in one way or another, a technology stack underneath that service. And you need to make sure that you are capable of identifying all the technology bits within that technology stack that are needed to deliver the service to that customer. And these 2 elements will help you set up and scope your DevOps team. And you can qualify the service, and you can quantify the units of work that will go into managing the life cycle of that service, and that combined will give you the ability to scope. And of course, at the end, and that's quite tricky, you need to do this for all the services within your organization. And that's not a one-time exercise because things will keep changing, and we've never been in a situation that we were capable of defining all the service. But in the end, if you got, let's say, you start with the first one, and when you're at 80%, then that's normally good enough. So we've got this technology stack. Then one thing that you need to decide upon is, if you've got this team that is responsible for 1 or 2 services and is the technology stack, then what elements, what layers in the technology stack are the responsibility of that team, and what layers at the lower end will be part of another team. And this of course will differ for each service, but in the end you might end up with something like this. What you see here is a probable situation that you will end up in. You've got these teams, business system teams or product teams we call them, and they are responsible for services, delivering services, new developments, for managing the service, but they build upon a generic layer of IT, and the generic layer is provided by platform teams. So the platform team is consisting of developers, of operations, of other people, and they are developing services for those product teams. And the key is that the product team is capable of autonomously using and changing stuff in the generic services they require to deliver their service. And when you've got the bottom layer set up, your platform teams, that will really create a sort of acceleration within your ability to be agile, to do DevOps, to get these great services out to your customers. And of course, there might be a lot of automation involved, but the question of whether or not you're ready for DevOps, in my opinion, you're always ready for DevOps. Just create those teams. And if there is not enough automation in place to really get the flow going, then assign them to address these issues. And these guys, these girls, these IT professionals, these engineers are more than capable themselves of coming up with the right things to do to automate the hell out of everything they use. And of course, you can set up a continuous delivery program parallel or integrated with your DevOps or Agile initiative, and that will help things along. So you've got this bit done, and then of course you need to organize the teams, and then you've got the question whether or not a specific customer domain is serviced with multiple DevOps team or it's one-on-one, and you've got all these governance bits going on. And one key element to remember is the more autonomy you are able to give to the teams, the less governance you need. And of course, and we know these discussions from the Agile projects and implementations, you see what about the enterprise architecture, and what about teams doing stuff on their own and creating legacy of tomorrow. And I've got no answer to that in this webinar, but of course within DevOps it's probably the same. But in the meantime, my experience is don't worry about that too much. You cross that bridge when you come to it. So like I said, you do need some governance. You've got your governance on the user side. There might be different user groups that you're supporting with one or more DevOps teams. So you've got at least to do some bits to manage the shared developments, architectural guidelines. And normally what we do is we ask teams that do organize themselves in an Agile DevOps way to assign people the role of dealing with this, and then they start using like Scrum of Scrums mechanisms to sort this stuff out. And of course it's about coordinating the backlog, and one really important element is the knowledge development and the sharing. And you've got to, if you look at the Spotify case with their tribes and guilds and things like that, then you've got great examples in how to do this stuff. So if you would look at the experience we've got in the last 2.5 years with DevOps, and then even more on the Agile bit, then there are a few lessons learned, and they are not that different from transformational projects in whatever the project tries to transform. The key thing, as always, and it's an open door, I know it's an open door, it's management buy-in from the start. That's why we set up the leadership tracks in the beginning. If you've got no management buy-in, then it's difficult to start. Are you ready for DevOps? If the IT leadership, if the business leadership team is not supporting it, then you might be able to say, well, not really. You can do small initiatives and see if that will convince people to get on board. But if it doesn't, then you've got a problem. So basically, come up with a good business case. Make sure that the need for agility and cohesion within the IT information supply chain is really felt. And when you got enough buy-in to start, then start small. And keep inspiring people within the enterprise. Highlight the success, and the first real, maybe a bit rough diamonds, but the first elements that you say, yes, we're doing it, then when you've got those, then you can scale up. And basically, in the end, team success is the basis for doing all of this. So. Continuing, when you set up the teams, then we ask the teams to look at their sort of maturity or DevOps integration level, as we call it. And normally teams are a bit between 2 and 3, maybe 4. And we ask the teams to do a self-assessment on a 4-weekly basis, usually, to make sure that they come up with a good understanding of their own situation, and it's the stuff they need to improve upon. And it could be that their leadership needs work, or their automation, or the way they handle their autonomy, and maybe they need to change stuff within the organization or get new people on board. And they can use all the lean techniques and the agile techniques and the Scrum process and things like that to improve. And if you look at one of our Dutch clients, now you're doing a very large DevOps, Agile DevOps transformation, and we're part of that. And the funny thing they do is they come up with this DevOps integration model, Selfie. So they ask the teams to do the assessment, and it's of course a team thing. The team decides, but they've got this dashboard, if you will, where they can track and trace all the teams, the development within the teams, the stuff the teams is working upon to improve themselves, and that's a great way of getting to grips with autonomous teams, self-steering, self-improving, and yet keeping a very good grasp on what they're doing. And they build up their Agile DevOps in stages. So yes, they started with Agile and doing Scrum and getting Scrum Masters and product owners in place, and they were working on continuous integration and then automatic testing and stuff like that. And started with Agile testing and then automating, and then slowly moving towards the continuous delivery and doing the DevOps and embracing all the DevOps principles. And underneath it all, and that's my last slide on the things you need to do. That's the fourth step to get to the high-performing team, is all the boxes within this pyramid need to be addressed. And it's sort of a pyramid where you say, well, you need to get the bottom elements right before you can really start performing on a higher level. So good internal motivation, good teams with safety and shared team values is absolute a necessity to get this high-performing IT that we all strive for. I'm running out of time, so a couple of last lessons learned. Sometimes we've got customers that say, well, we want to start, and we start with the development side of our business, and we're doing Agile, and that's great. And then you can see on the slide, and we'll send this to you later, the steps you need to take. And sometimes we get more people from the infrastructure operations bit, and then usually we start with a lean IT, and then gradually build up towards the Agile and the DevOps. And basically, lots of lessons to be learned, and we've got 10, well, maybe not so open doors that we would like to share to you. I'm not going to read them all out to you. 10 lessons learned that you need to incorporate in your daily thinking when trying to create agility. And that's basically all we've got time for, because it's almost 5 o'clock. Last slide for me, and then I give it over back to my colleague Jeroen. If we look at our offerings to the market and the things people ask us, then it's quite funny, because we've got engagements where we do help IT leadership teams come up with a DevOps strategy, and then that's a small assignment, and we call it in one day. It's a bit more, but still. And then we've got people that come to us to help with these big transformational programs, and we've got people that say, no, we're fine, but we need help with continuous delivery or creating awareness within our organization. So if you want to find out more about this, go to our website. It's at the top at the quintgroup.com. So if you're still there, thank you for listening to me for the last 30 minutes about hopefully useful lessons that I tried to share with you on our experience with implementing DevOps within organizations. Yep. Jeroen?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Frederick. We have a couple of questions. And this is one I heard before, but it's always a nice one. Is if I want to start with DevOps tomorrow, how and where do I start? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's simple. It of course depends a bit on how big your organization is, but let's say you've got a fairly amount of IT professionals working in your enterprise. I would say find the people who are already doing Agile and DevOps, buy them a pizza, ask them to stay, and keep asking them questions. You'll probably learn a lot, and you will also especially learn what you need to do to help them improve with their Agile and DevOps way of working.
Okay, thanks.
So, do a pizza session.
Do a pizza session, okay. Another question, someone's interested in the competence model. Is there any more information on that and where to find it?
Yeah, as you know, I would say go to quintgroup.com. You're probably easily located on our website. You can also go to the website of DASA. It's the DevOpsAgileSkills.org, I believe.
Yeah.
But those are the two places to have a look.
Yeah.
And if you can't find difficult questions, reach out to us by email, phone, or whatever, and we'll happily help you along.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, let's call it a day. I will make sure that in our follow-up we will share with you the presentation and the recording. And I want to thank you a lot for joining this webinar, and maybe until next time. And Frederick, thank you for your time, your story.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
have a nice day. Bye.